From Carolla One Studios in Glendale, California, this is The Adam Carolla Show. Adam's guest today, Amber Rose. And the guys behind Metaphysic deepfakes, Tom Graham and Miles Fisher. And now, bad bitch, Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get on. Get it on. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for sharing the show. Tell a friend about it. So many people I speak to, they go, I got my son into it, or I got my neighbor into it, and it's always a lovely, lovely story. Amber Rose is going to come in. We'll talk to her about everything, because she's seen everything and done everything and been with quite a few interesting people, so we got that. Also, the guys who are behind the, I don't know, we call them deep fakes, Chris, where they do Tom Cruise's face.
Tom Cruise is probably the most well-known one. If you have TikTok or Instagram or anything, you've seen these deep fakes where Tom Cruise is playing the guitar or doing some TikTok dances, and it looks creepily so realistic.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious where this is all going, so we'll talk to these guys about that. We'll shift up the order a little. I got some liked tweets and some news at the top. First, a little update on Jay Leno, who I spoke to last night, because Adam Ray and his stepdad George and his mom are in town. And so George is a good dude, and he's Adam Ray's stepdad, and he likes cars, and I know he likes cars because Adam and George came and hung out with me at Monterey, hung out in the pits and saw the car. So I also kind of like the notion of guys that like their stepdads and want to do stuff for them, and there's a lot of different directions a stepdad and stepmom can go. But it's nice when they come in and they're good, and they take care of the kid, and then the kid feels like some obligation or some allegiance. So I like the concept of Adam wanting to do something for George. And so I was asked, I don't know, Chris, maybe on Friday, if I could set them up with a Jay Leno tour.
It's one of George's bucket list items. He really wants to see that garage.
Yeah. Be careful with the bucket list, because when you get to the very last thing on the bucket list and you cross it off, guess who's dying?
Yeah, mine's never ending.
Yeah. So Chris said, could you get Jay set up? Could you tell Jay about George and Adam? And then I walked out and I said, remind me, send me an email. And then he sent me an email, and then I forgot about it. And then I got on with my life, because I look out for number one.
There's only so much I can do.
I know, but I had in the back of my head that they were asking for the tour on a Tuesday, possibly a Wednesday.
That's what was agreed on.
Yeah, and I whiffed on it completely. And then on Monday, Chris hit me again and said, hey, what about Adam and the tour of Leno's garage? And then I thought, oh, crap, now it's Monday night. I haven't talked to Jay. I didn't reach out to him after he got in his motorcycle accident. And now I'm going to reach out to him about having these strangers take a tour of his shop the following day.
You're already calling and you're wanting something before, and you haven't even checked on your buddy.
Yeah, so I sent him a text, and I said, comedian Adam Ray, all-around good dude with his stepdad. Well, I think I left out the parents, because I like to boil the frog slowly. I said, Adam Ray, good dude, good friend, comedian. Can he come by and take a tour of the shop? I just left it open. And then Jay, who's old school, Jay said, call me, because he wants to talk to you. And I agree. He doesn't like doing the texting stuff. He's probably on a motorcycle at the time. He can't text and ride. So I called him, and it was about 9 at night, after 9, and he was at home, because I could hear his wife in the background. And but I started with, how you feeling, bro? Because I didn't want to go right into the ask. And he's very stoic. He said he cracked his kneecaps, bruised his ribs, and broke his collarbone. And I said, so you're like really sore, right? Like, because I was kind of doing when your ribs get bruised, there's nothing you can do but live with it, Yeah. And the kneecaps being cracked. I said, but so you're sore, but you're okay, but you didn't have to go in, did they? And he was like, well, yeah, they had the collarbone snapped right in half. Comical. He said, he said, I'll show you a picture. It looks like a cartoon. Like sometimes there's a break and there's breaks and there's breaks. His was snapped.
Oh.
So he said they had to go in surgically and repair it. And I said,
"What's with him sending you all these pictures of his injuries?"
I don't know. No, he said he'll show it to me. He'll show me on his phone next time I see him. But I'll take his word for it.
Yeah,
probably didn't look
you don't
good.
Need to see it.
And then I said, "Oh man, motorcycle accident." And then he said, 71-year-old guy driving an 83-year-old motorcycle. What could go wrong? And I said, well, at least you're getting some good material out of all this, Jay. And he's like, yeah. And so we lamented that for a little bit. But then I, as a guy who's interested in vintage motorcycles, I kept wanting to know what happened to the motorcycle. Everyone else wants to know what happened to Jay.
I know. I'm still wondering, is he in casts? Like, is he...
There's no cast for a collarbone, and there's no cast for kneecaps, and there's no cast for
all
ribs.
the bones you can't get a cast for.
Right. That's what he broke. He told me stoically, he said, you can take the picture down, by the way. He told me stoically, he goes... I was up in Phoenix the next whatever, and then I was at the Hermosa Magic and Comedy. I was there last night, and he always goes, the show must go on, and I think he conveys it to me as a fellow dude, as a fellow sort of gearhead dude, and a comic. He's like work ethic. He's proud to say he doesn't take the pain meds and he doesn't miss the shows even when things go horribly wrong. But I said to him, well, so how'd it go? Because I'm kind of interested in what happened to the motorcycle. Because when you get pulled off the back of a motorcycle, the motorcycle's going to keep going. It's going to get wobbly. It's going to cartwheel. It's going to get thrashed. So I said, what happened? He said, I was out in the Indian and I smelled some fuel. So I thought I better turn around and head back to the shop because, he's had his run-ins with the fuel. And then he said, I was turning around in the parking lot, I hit a wire. A wire pulled me off the bike. And I said, well, what kind of wire is this, Jay? And kind of made sense. One of those wires that they go, you can't come into this parking lot or you can't leave or, people do that. Around my stupid grandparents did it a million years ago. They had this driveway that sort of shared half of it with the neighbor, and they lived by the post office, and people would go to the post office and drop stuff off, and they would turn around on their driveway. But they just sort of turn from the street and sort of spill into their driveway a little. But you'll see it around here, houses in the hills and stuff. They'll have like a chain up.
Yes, I'm thinking of the chains, but a wire?
They don't want people turning around in their shit. My grandmom settled it by taking these shitty metal stanchions and screwing them down to the ground, like 5 of them that led out to the street. But the driveway's at an angle and then the curb and everything, and they're all cockamamie at weird angles. And I was like, all right, you don't have people turning around in your driveway. You just have these rusty, shitty looking akimbo stanchions rusting and sticking up like a tank trap in your fucking yard. Like, is this better?
No.
All right. Not. So anyway, I don't want to make it about me. But
Jay heard it.
Jay... Somebody, I imagine with those 2 parking posts that are like 42 inches up, like strung a cable across it, didn't hang a flag on it. Jay hit it, pulled him off.
Oh, my God.
Busted himself up. Now, but I want to know what's going on with that bike. So I said, so I'm picturing the bike. I said, Jay, did you ghost ride the bike? Because the thing would go and then get wobbly and then it'd
crash into a wall and explode.
Up. Right. And he said, He was on the Indian with the side hack. Had the side cart.
Oh, so that'll go forever.
It's still going. It's still going. It's in Oregon right now. So he said it just coasted, hit like a shrub, and then hit a building. But the bike isn't too jacked up because it's the 3-wheeler side hack. And I thought, man, first off, he's happy no one was in the side hack because they'd probably own half his garage by now. They'd lawyer up.
Yeah.
But also, it's also weird to ride the side hack with no one in the side hack. But either way. And his buddy Bernard at the shop, the crazy Swedish guy, races in Europe. It's a big sport. The side hack,
I've seen pictures of
right, with the monkey hanging off the side, and Bernard and his monkey are always over there going nuts, and they crash all the time and get fucked up all the time. It's the craziest form of racing ever. But anyway, Bernard's nuts, and his monkey is the brother of a guy I went to high school with. Who died like between the 10th and the 11th grade. Just, it was just one of those. He was on the B football team with me. Next year, it was like, came around, like, where's Greg Kowski? Like, remember he had that knee injury or whatever? Like, yep, it was cancer. He's gone. Like, he didn't make it to the 11th or 12th grade or whatever it was. But anyway, his big brother now, his younger brother, who's a big dude now, is now Bernard's monkey on his side hack.
The sidecar.
Hack racing. And don't think sort of chitty bang bang. Think rider, Bernard driving the cart, laying forward on his belly, big fucking slick in the back, 200 horsepower, and a guy hanging off and like dragging his ass, off the side. And if you screw up the ballet, you're gone. They've had a few run-ins. Anyway.
You call the person in the sidecar a monkey?
He's the monkey.
That's what they're called?
They're called the monkey. Yeah. Because your job is on the straightaway, just tuck in. Just get as low drag coefficient as possible.
Bobsledding.
Yeah. Then you're making a right-hand turn and the hack's on the right. You are hanging onto it and leaning as far out away from that to get as much weight to that. Now you're doing a left-hand turn. You're shifting off the thing and hanging off the other side. Right. So the guy who rides the hack is the monkey. I don't know which job is crazier. But anyway, Jay was on the side cart with the side hack, and it just coasted to a stop. So that's Jay. Life tip, I went to an ear, nose, and throat guy yesterday to try to figure out my deviated septum. I think Jody Miller came in here about 6 months ago, and she said, I got mine fixed. It was a life changer. And I'm like, I've never been able to breathe through my nose correctly. Like
you put your fingers up there and you can feel which way it's...
I can kind of feel that it's not right. The guy went up with the scope. Before he went up my nose with the scope, though, so I've been this way my whole life. And the young doctor, I think he's seeing life not through the old poor Carolla eyes, but through his eyes. Like, he's like, is this allergies? I'm like, no. He's like, when did this come on? I was like, 10 minutes after I was born. Like, I remember as a kid, as like a 3-year-old, just hanging my mouth open all the time and drooling. And that's all I did was drool on myself with my mouth hung open. Society's not properly educated on this issue because all I had was people walk by and go, hey, shut your mouth. You're going to get fly in there. And they'd walk the other direction. They wouldn't go, why is this kid breathing through his mouth?
Yeah, what do you call the imbeciles of our society? Mouth breathers.
Right, they're mouth breathers. Like I was, and this the 70s, like I was just, so I would just sit around and drool all day. Just, and I would sleep with my mouth open and my mouth would get all dry.
Same.
And I couldn't breathe through my nose. And then fucking 2-a-day football practice in the San Fernando Valley. They make you run the wind sprints and everything with your mouthpiece in. You got to have your mouthpiece in. I couldn't fucking breathe. And I was like, and also it's the San Fernando Valley. It's 105 degrees. We're doing 2 days. And they wouldn't give you water. And I would have the craziest cotton mouth in the world because my mouth was just bone dry.
That was back when water was bad for you.
Water would bad. Water.
You're going to cramp up.
Well, you're going to cramp up, or if you don't shut your mouth, it's going to be a fly.
Right. Or they always tell you, like, when you're running, breathe through your nose.
Right.
Breathe in through your nose. And I can't do that either.
Couldn't breathe. And so I just spent my entire life with the cotton mouth in the middle of the night. I used to eat and breathe at the same time, and I'd be eating, and I'd be eating, and people like, shut your mouth, like, chew with your mouth shut, and I'd be like, I can't breathe otherwise, and they go, it's so gross, like. There was no sympathy at all for the mouth breathers.
There was one time I was kissing a girl and I had to stop because I'm like, I need to breathe for a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had to stop it. It's very embarrassing.
Yeah. Yes.
It's just great that your mom, at least she mothered you, and she knew that, hey, there's something wrong with my son. I'm going to take him to the doctor. No, that never happened.
No, I started life drooling the whole time, and everyone just sort of made fun of me for drooling, like because you look like an idiot because your mouth hung open the whole time. And then later on, it just got into Pop Warner football and cottonmouth. There's that whole the general society's not sympathetic. They were worried about a fly getting in there, which I don't really think they're worried about. I just think they were criticizing me.
Yeah.
And then later on, you became sort of gross because you would eat and breathe with your mouth. I ate with my mouth open. So then I had to train myself, like, especially if you go on a date or something, shut your mouth when you're chewing, because I would chew and breathe and food would be coming out and spittle and everything. So I kind of, I coached myself up, but the young doctor's confused why the old guy's in here with this thing he should have taken care of on his 7th birthday. And so he wants to know what's going on. So he goes, first, we got to check your ears. Don't know why, but they're called the ear, nose, and throat guys.
They go in order.
It's all connected.
Going to check the ear. So he checks the ear, and he makes a sound like he looks in the air with the light, and he goes, oh, boy. He makes a, we're going to,
hey,
I'm not even here for that.
He goes, boy, you got some wax up in there. And I realize I do use earplugs a lot of time. I roll up the foam and shove the foam in there if I'm driving the car or sleeping sometimes or working machinery. And all I was doing is taking the wax and shoving it.
Packing it in.
So he does the most uncomfortable thing in the world, which is like, I got to go deep into that ear. And he pulls out something that I would describe as essentially a pistachio.
Oh,
yeah.
About the size of a pistachio and the exact same coloring.
Isn't that crazy?
As well.
Yeah.
And he popped it out, and then I go, sorry, I'm sorry.
You're embarrassed.
You know, and he's like, I do this all day. And I'm like, yeah, but I feel stupid. Sorry. And he goes, yeah, no problem. And he popped out a big pistachio wax that had been shoved in there.
Did he do it
awesome.
with pliers or whatever?
Yeah, forceps or whatever.
They have a water wash there. They're the ear, nose, and throat place.
Well, he's like, I'm going in.
I trust him.
And he went in and he pulled that baby out.
Great.
And then he went around to the other side, and this one was so far in that I kept reflexively like moving because it was really.
He's getting deep.
Remember the nasal swab for COVID?
Yeah.
It was that times 10 when it's going too deep in the air. And he pulled a little out and he said, all right, that's enough, or I get it, or sorry, or something. And then I was telling him I was sorry for my poor ear maintenance.
That's what I'm talking about. He's sticking a piece of metal in your ear, and if you do flinch, you can do severe damage to your inner ear.
The good news is there's only one direction you flinch, which is away from the metal. You only go one way. So, but I had an interesting thing. I said, I guess I got a lot of wax in there. He said two things. He was looking at my ear, and he goes, you have something canal narrowing or whatever. And I said, yeah. And he goes, that happens when you go in cold water. And I said, yeah. And I said, I do the cold water plunge every day. He goes, you swim in the ocean or something like that? I go, I do the cold water dunk I was in the ocean that morning, and I'll do the pool, whatever's coldest, And he's like, oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. But he didn't say don't do it. He didn't say it was a problem. He just said, I can tell by looking in your ears that you go in cold water because something changes in your ear, tries to protect itself, and something shrinks or something, which is interesting. I guess you can do it and sit in a cold tub and just go up to your neck if you want. I go under, but something to think about for the dunkers out there. But he then pulled the other thing out. He then looked up my nose, and he said, I had this narrowing and this stuff, and it looked like it, but we needed to get a scan and everything else. But I'm basically a candidate for this. He sort of said, yeah, this is what's going on
Candidate
with your face.
for like surgery?
Yeah, I said, he kept saying you could use Flonase and see if it works for a while. And I said, but how does that work? Because I don't really have allergies or anything. There could be a little inflammation or whatever. So he said, try some Flonase, and then
that's big nose spray. Trying to get involved in your life. Like Visine and lip balm, chapstick. Yeah, trying to get you hooked.
I use Flonase every day.
Yeah, there you go.
Do you?
Chris is
Does it work?
Yeah, because I have allergies too, but it works for me.
Yeah, he said
it's the only thing I've used that works.
Yeah. Then I told him. He's like, "What pharmacy are you with?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And he goes, "Well, if you tell me the pharmacy, I'll write you the Flonase thing." And I said, "Why do I need Flonase? It's over the counter. Why do I go to the pharmacy?"
You don't need a prescription.
And he goes, "Insurance will pay for it." I'm like, $9 or whatever,
14.
And he's like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'll throw caution to the wind. I'll just go pick it up," which I didn't do, but. Yeah, I gotta get the flow. I gotta get the flow. And I'm doing the math. By the time you look up the pharmacy and I gotta fucking stand in line and shit, I'll just go do it.
Yeah.
If you do have a correctal surgery to do this, it's going to be interesting. We'll be able to tell if your voice changes.
Yeah,
I know. That's
I would
most
expect it
about.
to change somewhat.
Yeah.
Nothing drastic, but it'll be different. That'll be cool.
So got that all looked at. I'll keep you guys updated on that.
You don't use Q-tips, do you? Like
to
clean your ears, yeah.
Not really. I mean,
you're not supposed to.
Oh, so I'm glad you brought that up. So everything like pushes it in there deeper, which is all I do. So this guy said, I said, well, do you recommend some sort of solution, some rinse, some over the counter thing, or one of those machines you see on TV or something? Like, what do you recommend? And he said, come in here twice a year and we'll clean it out. And I said, oh. And he said, yeah, it's like getting your teeth cleaned. And I was like, oh, all right. So once a year, go to the ear, nose, and throat guy and have him fucking clean out your ears.
Put that in an electronic freeway sign as well.
Yeah,
clean your ears.
I was like, I had no idea, but yeah, that makes sense. You go and you get your teeth cleaned once a year. Go get your ears cleaned.
Every few months or so, because I've spent so much time in headphones, my ears get severely impacted. And I got hydrogen peroxide and a little squeezy thing. Mm-hmm. And you just fill your ear with hydrogen peroxide. It'll loosen everything up, and you got to lay down there for like 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then you just spray hot water in there, and everything comes out. Doctors don't recommend it.
Oh, good.
But it works 100%. It's
all right.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, anyway, so
go to the doctor twice a year.
Leno, you asked him. So that all got set up.
Got all set up. I was like, I called him and I was like, hey, you know comedian Adam Ryan? He's like, no. And I was like, oh.
You will.
He will. I said, he's a good dude. And, maybe he's got a stepdad with him. And maybe his mom. And
okay, bye.
And they just want to swing on by. And he's like, yeah, okay, when? And I'm thinking in my head, tomorrow. But I fucking kicked the can down the road. I fucked myself. But thank God, Jay goes, yeah, have him come by. Have him come by tomorrow.
Oh,
and I said, okay, yeah. I'll see if they can squeeze it in. Let me see. So
short notice.
Then I hit up Adam, and Adam was over the moon. And then Jay said, remind me again. And I had to ask for his address because I just go to Jay's shop, but I don't know the street address or whatever to pass it on to Adam. But the good thing about Jay is he doesn't go, who you giving this to? Or I don't want to, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So theoretically, an hour and a half ago, they all arrived and took a tour. So because Jay said to call them today and remind him when they're showing up, and he'll be there. And so there's all taken care of. And that's the majesty of Jay Leno.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, so we got some trending topics.
We do.
And news.
Well, I want to bring up a trending video that's been going around. I've been seeing it everywhere. So a lot of sports outlets are talking about this. It was like media day for Super Bowl in Arizona, and they're talking about this particular reporter, right? Because he's been going around and he asked Eagles coach Nick Sirianni, according to Sports Illustrated, a very cringeworthy question about the Super Bowl. And then all these other people reporting it, they're quoting, like, some reporter just asked Nick Sirianni if he considers this a must-win game. And everybody's talking about this guy asking a question. And right when I heard what the question was, I knew it was our very own Dave Dameshek. So here's a video that everybody's been sharing. You can hear Dameshek at the very beginning. It's kind of cut off, but it's definitely him.
Must-win game.
Yeah.
That's it. He responds, yeah. And it really caught on. Like, of course, Shek has asked this in previous Super Bowls.
Yes.
And I think, well, just the way everybody's sharing it, nobody gets it, right?
No.
So that's what makes it catch on. Everyone thinks this guy is an idiot. How did he get led onto the field?
Sports guys, well, a little more now have a sense of humor, but traditionally zero sense of humor for sports guys. They don't get the grift part of this, and it's also gives you a little peek behind the curtain of modern society, which is somebody does something that's a goof, and you guys all take the bait and you run with it. Can you believe this guy? And it's also it's also bad human quality that believe this guy. Like there's a human quality that everyone is wired with, which is a really stupid human quality. Like when somebody goes, I'm thinking about heading out to In-N-Out so I can get a hamburger. Hamburglar. Oh. And then you go, hamburger.
He said hamburger.
He said hamburger.
I heard him say hamburger.
Hey, Ray, Steve, Johnny.
What I meant was hamburger.
Yeah, but you said
hamburger.
Yeah, but you said.
What
Yeah, but you know what it sounded like.
I know what I meant.
Yeah.
You know what I meant.
No. Mitt Romney said he put all those ladies in binders.
I understand that the hamburger.
Mitt Romney said hamburglar, and then he said he puts his ladies in a binder. He put them in a binder.
He did not literally.
I know we're all such fucking assholes.
Keeping a file
that we love to. We pounce on people's shit. Can you believe he asked?
And they don't let it go. Don't let it go.
I love it.
No, you said it. You said. Well, why did you say it? You're the one who said it.
Yeah. But for this to go viral, it has to go over people's heads. Otherwise,
So Shaq making his mark.
Congratulations,
He did it. He did it.
Yes.
He did it.
Yes.
I'm so proud of him.
This is what he has aspired
It's
to.
a bucket
with this
list.
Whole thing.
It's his bucket list.
Yes, it is.
He's been doing this for a while, and I love it. Yeah, just when I just read the text of what happened, I thought, that's Dameshek right there.
All right, what else you got?
You want to do some like tweets or news? What do you think?
Give me another like tweet.
All right, so this is a video of astronomer Carl Sagan. It was the last interview of his life in '96, and the tweet says
In 96.
Yeah. Sorry, the last interview of his life, 1996. Astronomer Carl Sagan gave an uncannily prescient warning of the dangers that arise when you can't ask skeptical scientific questions of those in authority.
Yes.
Right? This is something that you talk about all the time, especially
Dr.
as of
Drew
late.
talks about it all the time. We just went through an era where you could not ask authorities. I'm holding my fingers up in quotes because the authorities that, if you take, let's just really break down the authorities. For me, personally, I had Gavin Newsom, fucking wrong about everything and an imbecile and a liar and whatever else. Barbara Ferrer, LA City, Health Council, whatever. All the ladies on the city council. Up the chain went Fauci and the head of the CDC and the NIH or whatever. That was all the voices of authority, and then I would have to take my marching. Oh, and LA Unified School District council members who were setting.
And everyone, teachers.
And everyone I had to listen to, everyone who affected my life, all my experts, they were all wrong about everything. So yes, we need a little diversity of opinion over here. But let's hear what the late Carl Sagan had to say.
But what's the danger of all this? I mean, this is not the thing that...
There's two kinds of dangers. One is what I just talked about, that we've arranged a society based on science and technology, in which nobody understands anything about science and technology. And this combustible mixture of ignorance and power, sooner or later, is going to blow up in our faces.
Yes.
I mean, who is running the science and technology in a democracy if the people don't know anything about it? And the second reason that I'm worried about this is that science is more than a body of knowledge. It's a way of thinking, a way of skeptically interrogating the universe with a fine understanding of human fallibility. If we are not able to ask skeptical questions, to interrogate those who tell us that something is true, to be skeptical of those in authority, then we're up for grabs for the next charlatan, political or religious, who comes ambling along. It's a thing that Jefferson laid great stress on. It wasn't enough, he said, to enshrine some rights in a constitution or a Bill of Rights. The people had to be educated, and they had to practice their skepticism and their education. Otherwise, we don't run the government. The government runs us.
Wow.
Exactly what just happened.
Yeah.
Exactly. And now...
Did he sound crazy then? Like, is that... Like, if he said that now, he'd sound
right.
like you.
I would tell you this. Part of this is this general scheme of do not listen to anyone who was born before you.
Right.
So the founding fathers and Jefferson or Carl Sagan, these are just old white guys. They didn't know anything, so don't listen to them. Listen to me. Oh, Phil wants to go out.
I'll open the door. You keep going.
Listen to me because I'm 26 and I went to an Ivy League school and I'm a fucking hysteric and you need to listen to me. This is the problem. Everything he just said in a minute and 31 seconds encapsulated what the era we just left. And it's funny because now there's a story. I'll get into it tomorrow maybe, but there's a Newsweek story where someone from Newsweek just went, hey, we got it wrong, man, and it's time we start admitting we got it wrong and we hurt people when we got it wrong. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because it seemed like just 10 minutes ago Newsweek was busting my balls for saying it kills old people and sick people. And the rest of you pussies got played. Rest of you pussies got played. That's what I wrote.
Look, you're right. The reason people are mad at that, it's not what you said, it's how you said it. Nobody likes being called a pussy.
Well,
stop being the rest of you people got played, and I think you wouldn't have got it.
Stop being pussies. If you don't want to be called a pussy, then stop acting like a pussy.
Exactly.
That's what it was meant to do. So, all right.
If more people just stood up and said, no, this is ridiculous. We all know it's ridiculous.
They don't do anything when
everyone just allowed themselves to be ruled.
Yes. If every single gym said we're not closing, then they couldn't have done anything. And if everyone said we're not wearing a mask, then they wouldn't have done anything. And if every restaurant said no, we're keeping outdoor dining open,
we're dining indoors.
Or we're dining indoors, then that's it. Then there's nothing they could do. Just like there's nothing they can do when we have tons of people who want to be homeless or Black Lives Matter marching. They got to get out of the way when people do stuff. It was the cattle, it was the sheep. That's what fucked us.
And when they are asking for just apologies, that one guy, we'll find that letter. We'll talk about it. But it is interesting. If you Google COVID apology letter, that letter that was just printed yesterday is nowhere in the top page research, so it's going to take some looking for.
All right. Wake up, people. All right, one more.
All right,
one more.
Let's do one more liked tweet, sure. Let's do, okay. We were talking about honey yesterday and the honey dipper. Mm-hmm. And the NyQuil honey and Honey Bunch of Oat don't actually have honey in them, or it's like the most minuscule amount that it shouldn't even be included. Like, it should be illegal to have a picture of honey on your box or your product if there isn't a certain percentage of honey on it. Like the way we say organic, that something's organic, there's some rules you have to go by.
Yes.
So, it's false advertising. Well, someone tweeted you about KFC.
Yes.
So look, I love honey on my fried chicken.
Everyone
Maybe
does.
Dip that in the biscuits. You get
I do
some honey.
not.
Oh, my God.
What is
yes.
it? Dawson.
All right.
Clean out your ears and your taste buds. All right. So this is KFC's honey. It's actually a packet of honey sauce. The reason they call it honey sauce is I'll just read you the ingredients in order. High fructose corn syrup. Number 1. Then,
Honey's a sweetener.
yeah, it is. Then corn syrup. So
it's got high fructose corn syrup
and then regular fructose corn syrup. And then after that, sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And,
oh, my God.
And
So it's
then,
sugar.
Right.
And then
Dun,
honey.
dun, dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun. Oh,
Honey, honey, do, 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 do.
Hey, Chris, that's a finger popping
I
type
agree.
song there. Yeah, so here's the whole deal. There's now evidently no honey in honey. I don't trust.
Do we have a honey shortage?
I don't trust beehives anymore.
I get honey from a beekeeper in Utah. They're fans of the show.
Wow.
I get honey from a regular beekeeper. That's the only way to get it, and I can share that information at Los Angeles.
I'm just telling you, everybody, when you look at something and it says something,
Be like
read
Carl
it.
Sagan.
Be like Carl Sagan. Question the science.
Yes.
It's a very fluid.
Be skeptical.
Honey is a very fluid science, and you should be skeptical at all times. All right.
Yes.
Tom Graham and Miles Fisher are here. They have that
I can't wait.
Metaphysic.
Metaphysic. Well, the deep fakes that you see online. They're the guys behind it.
They're the guys behind it. I got a million questions, and we'll talk to them right after this.
In celebration of Jim Carolla's upcoming 92nd birthday, here's a list of 92 things Jim Carolla has never done. Number 17, tipped a valet. Just one of 92 things Jim Carolla has never done. Let's get back to the Adam Carolla Show.
Well, the guys from Metaphysic are here, and I'll give you the website in a second. Tom Graham, Miles Fisher. Good to see you guys.
Good to be here.
Lean up into your mic there, Miles, please. It's interesting stuff. I know nothing about it, but here we are. And you guys are, this is more than just sort of goofing on Tom Cruise on the internet. You're working with Robert Zemeckis and the Tom Hanks, and this going to be sort of the wave of the future in terms of lots of entertainment?
Yeah, I think so. You could imagine an internet 10 years from now where there's a lot of AI-generated content that features us because the barriers to entry and the cost of creating something that's so hyper-real and really interesting and personalized go way down with this technology over time. So I think that 90% of what we do online will have this visual content layer in the future, and it'll all be driven by the same technology.
And there's also, so there's doing stuff with people that exist, and then there's bringing up people from the past, Elvis or Marilyn Monroe or something. How big a component is the past versus the present?
Well, you have the past, and then you also you can do younger versions of people today, or you can age them up. So, part of what this technology enables is really changing the grammar of visual storytelling, but it also adds a time dimension. So the company was the first, I think, technological company to be a contestant on America's Got Talent. We made it all the way to the grand finals, and part of the grand finale was we brought back Elvis, and young Elvis, right in his sweet spot in our memory, live to a global audience. And so we're really at full articulation of bringing anybody kind of back from the dead, which is just an extraordinary thing. I mean, you and I could be talking, and soon also visually we could add Martin Luther King Jr. to the conversation. It really unlocks an entire new dimension.
And then I guess AI could tell Martin Luther King what to say, or what he would say, or what he might say if he was having a conversation with us.
I think that the important thing about that is you're bringing someone back and you're putting words into their mouth. So who has authority to kind of determine what someone like Martin Luther King would say. And whatever he does say is very important, right, in the context of history, in the context of today. And so you would think about people who control his estate or his family members, people who knew him. I think if you were trying to create either a script or train an AI to determine how Martin Luther King might react to something, then you'd want those people to be front and center in training that model or determining, the answers to those questions, because that's of historical significance. But if it was, say, me or random person, you could imagine AI models, and these are kind of like advanced chatbots today, which train on my pattern of speech or maybe all the emails I've ever written or something like that. And you feed that in, and it builds something that kind of represents, how I might respond.
Right. I could see them making something of you, Adam, faster than anybody, just because most of your thoughts have been shared into a microphone for decades, right? So they really have a lot to work off of.
Yeah, I think the general thought is one Adam Carolla is enough. Most people I know have already at a saturation level, and society. With me, with just the one, I think if we've created a second, that would be too much for family members.
or we could do the other Carolla for once actually tipping a valet person.
Oh,
we can manifest that.
Bring my dad back. Have water skiing and tipping and drinking a highball, all the things he's never done. So are we at the point where we could have Humphrey Bogart star in a movie by simply writing, the script would be the script. Hunter Biden could be. Humphrey Bogart could be in the movies as an actor. Are we there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And I think that things just like that are being created right now.
Right. They used to do that, like when actors would die, like during the filming, they would use CGI to finish off the role, and a lot of actors also think that's weird. Like Paul Walker, it happened. Paul Walker in Fast and Furious, remember? Yep. So, and I see a lot of pushback from actors who are saying like, okay, now we're losing our jobs because you can have Humphrey Bogart in this movie rather than me.
It's interesting if you look at what you would need to do. You'd have our technology, but then you also need, if you wanted to be Humphrey Bogart, you need the nuance of an extraordinary Humphrey Bogart impersonator, the mannerisms, the matter of speaking. And so it is interesting because, up until this moment in time, you really wouldn't be able to do that. If you look at cinema in this specific example, so the role of the stunt double is actually a very noble position. I mean, if it weren't for the stunt double, the genres of Westerns and action films would not exist because, quite simply, you couldn't get an insurance policy to shoot a big film. And as is often the case, the really good stunt doubles, work with the A-list star for 40 years because they're pros and they have to trust each other. And so now you have, there is a reason why, in my case, Deep Tom Cruise, which is really just an art project to kind of showcase this, we've now done well over 50 of these sketches. Each of them go viral because it's a well-conceived character, and I'm able to mimic underneath, what a 60-year-old would do, who's the biggest superstar in the world, trying to relate to teenagers on TikTok.
Yeah, it's so good.
Have you heard from the Cruise camp?
We're in communication with the Cruise. Listen, we have nothing but the highest admiration, sincerely, for Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
It was a surprise, right? There had been people doing kind of these deepfakes on the internet for years, and it was the quality of what our co-founder Chris Ume and Miles put together to make the hyper-real Tom Cruise that was suddenly beyond that threshold. It's not uncanny. It just captures people's imagination. And then hundreds of millions of views later, you sit there and think, okay, we need to, we don't know what we're doing. And so reached out to the Tom Cruise kind of camp and do you want this? We'll stop it. We'll do more. We'll do less. You can own it. Anything you want. It's an art project anyway. It doesn't really have a life of its own. There hasn't been that kind of pushback where it's like, no, you need to stop.
We don't monetize it in any way.
Right.
And let's be honest. Tom Cruise is 60 years old. The average person on TikTok is under 30, probably under 25.
Yeah.
So a lot of the core audience, TikTok is the global mall where teenagers loiter now. So there's nothing personal. These are very fun, joyous videos. So I think there's a lot of goodwill.
But
bring him in the forefront.
It'll bleed in at some point. Somebody's going to get put in a porn movie who doesn't want to be in a porn movie, and some revenue will be generated from it, and someone will either do the cease and desist or they'll ask. I mean,
that actually just happened.
Oh, I was going to say, I mean, sort of shades of Pam and Tommy Lee, you know, like if somebody's making money, then you're going to have to let somebody wet their beak because there's money being generated. That just happened.
But not even just money, right? So I don't know if you guys heard this. Like, there's this Twitch streamer at the end of last month who was doing a live stream, and in one of his browsers, he shared his screen, and people saw one of his browser windows, which featured some AI porn, and the faces were changed to other Twitch streamers that are also in the same field. So they called him out for it, and then here's his apology. By the way, he'll explain what happened. His name's he goes by Atrioc.
And then fucking at 2 a.m., you know, I've been watching so much fucking, I've been reading so much fucking AI stuff. I'm reading all this fucking stuff about AI and fucking deepfake music, deepfake art and everything. And I'm in these fucking Discords, and I just feel so embarrassing to me. But I was on fucking Pornhub, dude. I was on a fucking regular ass normal fucking website, and there was an ad. There's an ad on every fucking video for this fucking... So I know other people must be clicking it because it's on every fucking video for fucking deepfake thing. And then I...
No.
Oh, well, anyway, so that's his wife crying in the background. But yeah, so he goes...
These guys.
Yeah.
I've never heard so much crying and swearing simultaneously.
Well,
normally.
he got a lot of backlash. He actually, after this, has stepped away from the internet. But what happened was, so now these girls who... So he subscribes to the service that makes deepfake porn, and he picks the category, and he picked Twitch streamers, right? And then so he watches all these porn with Twitch streamers' faces on it, and he's like, I don't really know them personally, but they are in the same field, and other people caught it. So now these girls are found out that they're on this website, and they didn't give their consent, and now it's like their new quote unquote nudes were being released, and so and they're trying to see, but what can they do? And so it's just like it's a slippery slope at times when you're using it without people's consent.
Yeah, no, I mean...
This is a category called image abuse. And so creating synthetic media for image abuse. Revenge porn in general is, you know, not the AI version of it, but it is using somebody's image without their consent in a way that is deeply harmful to that person. Right. And these types of image abuse that we're talking about are the most abhorrent things that you can imagine. And when you talk to the people who are the victims of these things, they are soul-destroying, right? They have an impact on family. They bring the personal into the public in a way that we don't expect to ever happen in our lives. And so there's real weight to that. And, you know, there are some really around that story, some really good media organizations who don't deliberately proliferate information that this stuff happens, right? Because you can imagine what happens when that happens, and people go there, and then it drives more ads and more, etc. The media response around that was really good. In the past, over the last couple of years, we've seen some versions where people have, you know, they start saying the name of the websites and stuff like this, and that kind of drives interest in these things. So it's really everyone's responsibility to think about that. And, you know, his apology is interesting because it's putting a human face on the impact that this stuff can have. Even, you know, he's not in it, but you can imagine the people who are in it, how they're feeling, right?
They have videos of them crying as well, and they're traumatized, and they're...
The ethics are paramount, absolutely paramount.
Right.
And so consent is paramount. Also, we're talking about artificial intelligence, and so the data that is loaded in to build this model is of the utmost importance. It's interesting because Tom's background kind of specialized around this new paradigm of ethics through his legal background, and we have put really ethics, trying to be the leaders not only in this technology but also in communicating how ethics going forward is going to be the fulcrum on which this whole thing rests. Because the technology's here. It's just here.
Right. It's here, and it's going to spread like ivy, right? I mean, I don't know if you can figure this out, but if you see a movie 5 years from now, 45% of the movies are going to have some version of this in it to one way, shape, or another, or at least bigger budget movies.
Beyond that, so much further than you can imagine. I think 5 years from now, you will be able to sit there as a regular person and dictate the Star Wars story that you want to see into, like prompting ChatGPT or prompting Stable Diffusion, the equivalent of that, and you could direct that in real time as it's streaming to you, and you will be in the episode too. Full storyline, full world, everything. These models would be trained on the Star Wars universe, but the ability to kind of like stream that media in real time and generate the whole thing, just the people and the backgrounds and everything. 5 years feels like a long time for that to happen from my perspective.
Yeah.
And so, we're talking about a cataclysmic revolution in how we think about entertainment. There was one really interesting one. I'm not sure if you guys saw it. It's called Nothing Forever, an endlessly streaming AI-generated Seinfeld episode.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just
Twitch.
heard about that.
Yeah.
And they just got an episode taken down because they had to apologize.
They had like a trans joke or something.
There's no episode. It's just one thing. It just streams forever. It's generating 24/7. Which is a crazy concept.
There's a lot of AI stuff, and I just want to say I'm thinking about my 16-year-old twins. Good luck. Jesus Christ. You turn on the news, it's like China's cloning cows. It's like, oh my God. We're entering some world, and I don't know if it'll be dystopian or not, but we're entering a world where there's going to be, first off, we can't even conceive of all the machinations of all the stuff we're talking about that's happening right now. Like, we just don't. You guys know better than anyone, and even you guys don't know 10 years from now the applications. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Like, I don't know if I try to convince my kids just go full Amish, like just move to Pennsylvania, just fucking give it up. Like, you're going to go insane or dive into it head first and start a business. But there's a lot of AI stuff going on, and somebody actually tweeted me that they tried to get...
They use GPT.
Right. Now, so the slightly dangerous crossroads we're at is AI isn't AI. Somebody programs the AI, and that somebody has opinions about things, and that may bleed into how effective this is, or may become the opinions of the AI. So somebody asked they asked.
So someone wrote, I asked ChatGPT to write me something in the style of on the topic of COVID on the style of Adam Carolla. So he wrote, write an essay in the style of Adam Carolla on COVID, and ChatGPT responds, I'm sorry, but as an AI language model developed by OpenAI, I don't generate content that promotes hate speech or offensive content.
How about correct shit about COVID, you fucking computer?
Adam Carolla has made statements in the past that could be considered offensive and insensitive to certain groups. As an AI language model, I aim to generate content that is respectful and inoffensive to all people.
Right. So if you start asking the AI, and now everyone's asking AI questions, write a poem about Donald Trump. And they're like, no. And then they're like, write a poem about Joe Biden. They're like, okay. So now it's AI, except where it's starting to become like Twitter.
The people who are programming it or at the ground floor.
Things are getting political. So that's an interesting
So there are two things at play there. The data set that you use to train the big model, like, what are the biases built into that data set? Because the internet's full of a lot of very inflammatory things, right?
Sure.
And on every level, if you take all of that and train a model on that, that's why some of these models over time, the last couple of years, they tend towards taking very extreme positions around things because that's the data that we can gather. This is an example of, that company doing content moderation on top. And that's the same discussion that internet companies have been having for a long time about, like, what do you restrict and what do you allow? And that's a corporate policy, all different types of questions which don't relate to the data set. But the one around AI, around the data set, like, how do we design data sets which are not biased or reflect better values than something that you find in a dark corner of the internet? That's a real hot topic now.
Of course.
Because it's not like moderation. It's in there. We don't know how it got in there. We don't know what impact it's having, and it can have time on impact over time as you train model on model.
Well, we just watched a video of Carl Sagan asking us to be skeptical, so that's why we're worried. We're trying to we definitely want to get to the bottom of this, but we definitely have our concerns about this kind of technology.
AI Carl Sagan might save us from it.
Right? Yeah, let's get him back. But what are some of the benefits to society that this technology could have?
So I think that moving beyond, say, the obvious benefits of ChatGPT, where you can make more text content or answer questions more easily through search, I think that what we focus on, which is creating hyper-real versions of people that look so real that your grandmother couldn't tell the difference. That comes with a set of responsibilities because you're kind of extending reality into the digital world. You see it on a screen, it looks like the real world, and then in your mind's eye, it just lives as the real world. And so what does that mean that you could do at kind of scale? I think about, the context of the internet today and Twitter, and there's not a lot of empathy. But if you're in a real immersive experience live with someone, maybe going through an experience together, there's a much greater possibility for empathy at massive scale. And so having digital experiences which closer mimic in-person interactions, I think that that's potentially a really good thing. There are lots of good things around education. So kids having not online learning or reading a textbook written by an expert, but all 1,000 kids interested in this really hyper topic, taught by the best expert in the world who's also a really great teacher in a more immersive human environment that's not like a Zoom screen or a textbook, that maybe has a real benefit, for helping kids learn the kind of stuff that they want to learn alongside all the other stuff.
Well, this is so antiquated, but there's a criminal part of this where they'd go, this is what this guy would look like today. And there's always was a bad sketch drawing. They just take the guy who committed the atrocity when he's 28 and it's been 40 years and he's still at large, and they just draw the same guy a little fatter with less hair.
Yeah.
And then there's a version of that with the kid that was abducted when they were 9, and this is what the kid would look like 20 years later if you've seen this person. But that was always just the guy who worked at Knott's Berry Farm doing his best job with a Sharpie. You guys could probably age a criminal up or age someone who was abducted up pretty easily, right?
There are real-life examples of that already having happened. There are relatively accessible, AI aging up tools, right? Some of these are built into apps, and police departments have used those to take the old mugshot, age it up, and it has resulted in them reopening cold cases.
I think there's an application for young couples as well. I'd be like, you want to get married? Let me check, see what you're going to look like.
See how this shakes out.
In your golden years. Oh, boy. We got an issue.
Yeah. Well, then you enter in the amount you're going to spend on plastic surgery, too. And you can see that, right?
That's where it's
I think Madonna should have run those numbers. So I want to watch.
You could also potentially, realistically, have a conversation with your great-grandparents, just personally, one-on-one. And talk to them. And as we, move forward, right, we think of our great-grandparents who were alive before World War II. But as time marches on, all of their documents can be scanned. That specific model of everything they ever wrote, the cadence of their voice, every image that they had can be built in. So it very realistically, what we're seeing with just Deep Tom Cruise, Tom mentioned the uncanniness is that it just leaps over the uncanny valley. It is so hyper real that to most people.
Simon Cowell, he looked shocked when you guys brought.
Well, let's watch. Can we watch the Elvis? America's Got Talent.
Yeah, the America's Got. He said it was the best performance he's seen all series. It was incredible. So that was props, because you wouldn't expect to see that on a talent show, right? We're a tech company. Here's what we got, but. I mean, look at this. So they have a camera set up, and they just have the big screen behind them. And look at Simon's face. He's in shock. And he's seen it all.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog, yeah. Crying all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, yeah.
Amazing.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Well, you ain't never caught a rabbit wake you waking no friend of mine.
You guys were absolutely amazing. This is my absolute favorite act so far of the night.
Wow.
Yeah, Simon was in it. They brought Heidi and.
Yeah, and then it also, speaking of Tom Cruise, I'm trying to think of the name of that movie, but it also leads into, you think you got a film of me robbing the liquor store, that's not me, and then there's this weird plausible deniability thing where it's like you're talking about, Pam and Tommy Lee's porn tape. Well, then something could be released, and then you could say to your husband or your boyfriend, that's not me, that's been cooked, So now we're in the Wild West, right?
This exact phenomenon is called the liar's dividend.
Right.
So what it means is like the greater the awareness that something could be faked, the greater the ability of someone in power to say that bad thing that they did was just a fake. It was a deep fake news. And so autocrats in countries where the media is tightly controlled have used kind of deep fakes as an excuse for, there's this video of them doing something very bad and they're like, oh no, it wasn't me. It's kind of fake news.
Really?
Yeah. And so that's problematic in a world where there is more media, more opinions, and you can make something that's very realistic. The solve, I don't know what the solution is, but I know that more education amongst regular people, that media can be manipulated and maybe you shouldn't instantly think that what you see is so outrageous and then send it along and make it go viral. More awareness is probably going to work against some of the bad parts of the liar's dividend, etc.
Right.
Well, I mean, I'm guessing this will fall under the heading of tons of technology. Just there's an application for the internet that's very good, and then there's a bad application. And always kind of say it's like a gun. Is a gun good? Is it evil? I'm like, who's holding it?
Right.
What are they doing with this gun? It's not that the gun is inherently bad. It's that in the hands of someone responsible in a situation that requires it, then you'd be happy that person had that gun. And in other situations, it's a bad thing. And I guess this is just going to fall under that heading, right?
One of the things that's really reassuring, I find it actually reassuring, is to go back and read the criticism, the smart, thoughtful criticism at the advent of new technologies. Mm-hmm. So the kind of the two brothers there, Lumiere brothers, French guys who are kind of credited with creating cinema. And that first film that they ever showed was famously a train pulling into the station, but it was POV as though the train was pulling into you. Mm-hmm. Now, all around the world, literally people freaked out and they sprinted out of the movie theater, right? That was a global phenomenon. And it's like, this is a terrifying thing. Like, why would we bring this into the world? It was the invention of cinema. I've been on a kick right now of reading about the kind of, it sounds stupid to say, but criticism from like the 1840s to the mid 1860s when the camera was very early invented. And widely the think pieces were, creativity's dead. Mm-hmm. Art is dead. What job do painters have anymore? What on earth would you possibly paint when it's now hyper real and you can just press click and develop that and then show that? Portraiture, everything. And that was thousands of years of the economies of painters. Mm-hmm. Well, we know that to be false. And so at the beginning, it's all about, this is this crazy thing, what do we do? Part of our job in the short term through Metaphysic is, this is clearly technology where it's easier to show people what works rather than tell them what can work. Mm-hmm. We need to continue to do it, and we've chosen to do it always ethically, and then through a sense of joy and wonder. Bring back Elvis, have Tom Cruise everyday things just like us on like a Twitter phone. Now we're doing established cinema and, live musical residencies with the future dream of, potentially talking to your great grandparents from beyond the grave. It's fabulously exciting, and things are moving very, very fast, but we are still early nascent days.
I wonder, it's not really a question that can be answered here, but sort of psychically and globally, I wonder, and I sort of wonder with my kids, like, is there just going to be too much to digest? Like, I am a strong believer in kids being bored. Like, they need a little downtime. Like, the reason John Popper from Blues Traveler can play the harmonica the way he does is because he was bored. And he had a bunch of downtime, and he mastered something,
I agree, yes.
And I was bored a lot as a kid, and I sat alone with my thoughts a lot, and I didn't read, which is a weird thing, because people think, oh, I know a lot of stuff, and they go, and you didn't read. And I go, that's because I was always thinking of stuff. Like, I wasn't ingesting other people's ideas. I was alone, kind of forming my own thoughts. And, I don't know if it worked out, but And I'm not saying not to read, but I'm just saying.
Also, if there was something that you were really interested in and you asked your older brother, your cousin, the answer was, I don't know, dummy, look it up.
Right.
And that meant like go to a library and take the time to like find someone who's an expert and track them down. Like that journey imprints on your memory. Like this is hard work to get access to this thing.
And I'm kind of wondering, like, too early, too often, too much.
Yeah.
I can see my kids kind of going down that route, and it's on. Like, we're there now. And so I imagine we're going to have to essentially invent a treadmill, but for your mind, which is no one has to walk to the well anymore. So we'll synthesize it at home with essentially a treadmill. And I don't know if everyone needs a deprivation chamber in their house, or they're going to need to float for an hour a day or meditate or something, but we're going to have to figure out some
it's cyclical,
remedy
though.
for it.
I'm reading all the time about, groups, really cool social groups in their 20s and late teens where it's no smartphones. Like, to be a member of the group, like you can't own them.
Yeah.
It's flip phones only. And it's let's sit together and like let's read books, and like the social capital is kind of like revert back. Everything is cyclical, but you're right. The widespread lack of boredom is a new paradigm.
It's too much candy. Adam, when the it was the Golden Globes when Austin Butler won, he kind of had Elvis's voice still, and everyone's wondering like, oh, he still talks like Elvis. I'm listening to Miles talk, and I'm just seeing Tom Cruise. I don't know if you're getting that, but like his
he looks like Tom Cruise as well, a young Tom Cruise.
Do you have to keep your hair like that for the deep fakes?
I heard this every day of my adult life for 20 years before this technology was invented. So it's a little bit of a chicken and the egg. It just so happens he's, rest in peace. Queen Elizabeth has passed away. It is plausible to argue that Tom Cruise is the most famous face on planet Earth.
Wow.
And so there's no escaping it. You watch my father give a speech and you'll be like, oh, he's just like his dad. Not like Tom Cruise. It's just kind of random. And so this has been a way for, again, as a kid, my bedroom walls had Tom Cruise posters on them like every other American.
Thank God
they
didn't
in the 80s and the
Lawrence
90s.
Fishburne, because that would have been a much taller order for you. Metaphysic is the name. .ai is where you go. We could go on forever. So you guys should come back periodically and like update us on, because it's all moving so fast, because this has been really enlightening. Tom and Miles, thank you guys for coming in here today.
Thank you.
Amber Rose is coming in, and we'll do that right after this.